Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Chris Dyer's Creative Friends, the super awesome podcast show where me, your artist friend Chris Dyer, talks to all his amazing creative friends. Today I'm in Southern Oregon. I'm visiting my good old friend Ishka Lha, who I've known for over 15 years in the visionary art scene. She's a beautiful person and painter who has really special sensitivities which she brings forth for her beautiful visions and interdimensional communications from beyond this planet. And this is a really good conversation past art. It's about our nature and reality between being in the physical plane and aliens and our interdimensional reality. Along her beautiful art, she also does great music, so she'll be sharing a song with her partner at the end of the interview. So I hope you will sit through all of it. I think you'll really enjoy it. Blessings!
While the world is turning, got to make amends. Walk on the sunny side with the positive lens. Talked about passion with all the beings in this land. Chris Dyer and his creative friends, darling.
Cool. Well, Ishka, yo! Did I say your name correctly?
You did, good job.
Okay, tell me the story of your name. It's a very interesting interstellar name.
So from a very young age, I grew up in a very small town, and I grew up with the name Jessica.
Okay.
And there was like 5 other Jessica. It was a very popular name at that time.
Uh-huh.
And I also felt like it didn't quite fit me. And so I kept playing with all these other different names, like from books I was reading. And like, I think I went by Jasmine for a while and Casimira and like these. I also feel like I had some kind of past life connection with Persia. Like there's these other kind of similar names. But I started using Ishka when I was 21. And I looked up the etymology for the first time of Jessica, and Ishka is the name that Jessica comes from.
Okay.
And I really loved being able to
Ishka.
still honor my parents and the name I was given at birth by taking on the name. As soon as I saw it, I fell in love with it, and I was like, that's my name.
Uh-huh.
And Ishka Lha is part of the Ishka Lha is part of a Sufi mantra. It's Ishka Lha Mabud Leila, which means God is love, lover, and beloved. And so it's also part of my art mantra too. Art is love, lover, and beloved.
Beautiful.
And that's part of my practice. And the La is spelled like LHA, which is the Tibetan spelling for the tippy tops of the mountains, where inspiration abounds. And it means spiritual love in Arabic, water in Irish Gaelic, anything cute and small in Russian. It's very 2 basic root syllables in many languages, so it means lots of things.
That's awesome. Well, very unique as yourself. Thank you, first and foremost, thank you for having us over your home, your private studio out here on top of a mountain.
Yeah.
Where are we?
We're in Southern Oregon, and we're on top of a little mountain by the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley.
Nice. This is Southern Oregon. It's close to Ashland. It's like the closest town or like the
Yeah.
most popular town close by.
Yeah, it's close to Ashland. It's like right in between Portland and San Francisco Bay. It's right off the 5. It's a nice, but we are also only 20 minutes from an airport, so it's very accessible, but also very natural.
Nice.
And
Why
in
are you
nature.
out here? You're not from here originally. Where are you from originally and why here now?
I'm originally from Mendocino County in California, Northern California.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in Berkeley, but I never lived there. Came back to Berkeley like a salmon to give birth to my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband and my daughter and I all came up here right after COVID started. It's sort of unrelated though, because our friend who's the founder of this project that we're a part of here, that brought us here, he found this land just before COVID. And then he invited us up in February of 2020 to come see the place and really wanted us to come and collaborate. We were thinking we'd come here in summer for like a month or so and help develop projects and infrastructure. And right after that, we also got a new tour vehicle to go on all these new tours. And then everything got canceled literally 2 days after we got home with our new tour vehicle. Our city was the first city to go into quarantine. So
That was Berkeley.
yeah, so our friend, our collaborator here, he said, "Why don't you guys just come now? Like, there's nothing else to do anyway, and you don't have to be in lockdown, and just yeah."
Be out in nature. So what is this place? Is it a commune? You said it was like a project. What is it about?
Yeah, so the place here is called Eagle's Landing. We call it the Landing for short. There's lots of eagles out here.
Mm-hmm.
And really, it's a place where people can come. We're incubating projects, we're doing some land stewardship, and we're having like little artist in residency groups, sometimes just a couple people at a time. We also have gatherings in spring and fall here for people to come and learn what we're doing. And yeah, it's a place for elevated human creativity in connection with nature and the divine in all its many forms.
And it's a long-term project, right?
Yes, it's long term. Probably, hopefully, it'll keep going way beyond my lifetime. I often tell people we're in the embryonic stages of a couple 100-year long endeavor. Yeah, we have visions for uh, creating a space that will be here for generations, that people can come and be in creative fulfillment. Like, what do people have energy for now? There's so many things that we've done throughout our lives, so many things that people have studied that they're experts in, but also like, what do you have energy for now? And what do you want to create now? And how do you want to bring those creations out into the world to make it a better place and to serve with your gifts? Yeah.
But why 200 years? Why you need 200 years? As you say, like what energy you got to create now? I think it's very awesome, admirable to look into like, oh, like this is a gift for generations past me where I will only be a memory. I think that's like super selfless and special. I rarely hear it. But what is, do you think that's like avoiding the now, or is it like the now that extends forever?
No, I don't think it's avoiding the now at all.
Mm-hmm.
We're giving everything we can to this project now, like
Uh-huh.
here and now with our lives and our creative energy. And it takes time, though, to build a place like the Omega Institute, a
Mm.
university, Esalen. There's certain projects, there's a painting you can make in like a week or a day, and there's some paintings that take years, or like
Mm.
a relationship. Like you can date someone here and there for a couple months at a time, or maybe you get married and you devote your lives to each other
Mm-hmm.
and you're able to build something that's really lasting, that's beyond just um
A fling. So this is almost like you devoting this for as a multi-generational project. Is that's how special you want this to be?
Yeah, yeah, and I think that the world needs that. I think that there's a lot of things happening right now where people's attention spans are getting shorter and shorter, and there's more and more people, and there's less and less places for people to be, and I think there's a lot of confusion for people to like figure out who they are, what they're committed to, what like community also. I think being in a creative community with other people who support what you're passionate about also helps us to develop.
Mm-hmm.
And
Support is
yeah,
appreciated, you know, like we could be on this journey by ourselves and do our paintings, or we could have a whole community around it to share and to share with us.
yeah.
Cool.
Art, I mean, creative, anything, because art is obviously a creative endeavor. Everyone knows that. But there's so much ways we can use our creative energy. It's not just for people to come here to do art specifically, but music, and or to write a book, or to start a new business, or to like start a new collaboration, or build a garden, or any number of things.
Mm-hmm.
How are we using the creative energy? Yeah.
What's the name of the place again, or is this still private till it comes to a certain stage?
It's called the Landing.
The landing.
Yeah. And
Cool.
my focus here is working. Everyone who comes here works on different projects.
Uh-huh.
So people who come here for a certain amount of time, for cohorts, they propose a project they want to work on. They can also join in on a project that's already in existence. Um, but my focus here is creating visual art and music with my partner, and helping to create beauty, and also to help develop infrastructure. I'm really into natural building
Mm-hmm.
and cob specifically. I have a degree in architecture, and my emphasis was on natural building and eco-village design.
Nice.
Yeah.
Super cool. Congrats. All of this community stuff sounds amazing. I hope that I will find. Well, I have my community either way, but they're like sprinkled star seeds all over the planet. It's not like something like close by, but you know, you can do it in cities too, and just call in the
Yeah.
people who are in resonance. And it has to.
Yeah.
Community's got to be everywhere.
Yeah.
It's nice when it's in nature like this,
Yeah,
though.
and also specifically that communities are connected. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think that having different hubs all over, that's another thing
Mm.
that we've been connecting with other hubs. We're doing similar but totally different things. Some are just focused on permaculture or spiritual development. But to be able to have other places where we can spend time, create, collaborate, continue to just have these networks of support and
Mm-hmm.
love, because we need that.
Nice.
We're
Well, good
humans.
job holding space for this hub, and props to everybody else out there creating their own hubs and communities. Well, I know you mostly as a painter. I would say one of the OG, you know, old school female visionary painters of the North American scene. We
Mhm.
met at the Tri-13 Interdimensional Art Show in Seattle, 2008.
Yep.
Would you have any memories of that specific show or that era in general? How do you get into
Yeah.
visionary art and end up in that in those pockets of people?
Well, I was at that time, I was just getting into figuring out what I wanted to do for art, because I had gotten out of school. I was in school for 6 years doing the architecture thing. And I had a strong love for math, and I had a strong love for art and theater and music too. But like figuring out like how I feel like during my 4th year in that program, we got to do study abroad. I lived in France for a year and traveled a bunch. And I had a lot of dark nights of the soul. I was also living in Paris, which is gorgeous and
Mm.
beautiful and so rich with culture and architecture and flying buttresses and
But it's dark
museums,
to
but
that
it's also
city.
like cold and gray and kind of
There's a
depressing.
dark vibe to that city.
I don't know
Have you ever
why.
been to the catacombs?
I
There's like
mean,
catacombs all under the city.
I loved going to cemeteries
Oh, you
in
like that?
general because they're very peaceful.
Mm.
And also because in Europe they're so old and so beautiful. There's so many sculptures
Well,
and
that Paris, what's it called? The big cemetery where Jim Morrison and
uh
William Blake's there.
yeah, I'm not so good at names, but
Yeah, no,
it's yeah, it's the biggest one.
it's awesome, that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, very sculptural. Sorry, I'm interrupting you.
Yeah, no. What was the question?
You were,
Oh yeah.
yeah, we were talking about
Yeah.
your roots in visionary art, but you're telling
Yeah.
me your time in Paris.
Yeah, and so then during that time I realized I really wanted to create art. And I was living with my sketchbook everywhere, just drawing and writing constantly. And at the time, because I was so young, I was like, oh, I have to make this choice. Like, it's so hard. Like, what do I do? And I wanted to make sure that like I would have a stable path too. And so I was very conflicted. But after traveling a lot that year, it just became clear like this is where my heart's at and this is what I want to do. And actually now looking back in retrospect, right? Hindsight, um, we don't really have to always make decisions that leaves something or a part of us behind,
Mm-hmm.
because I do have this love for architecture and I've worked on different projects over the years where I can also do that. But it doesn't have to be so black and white. And I think we learn that more and more as we get older. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like that. So I came back from there and I did my thesis work, and then I moved to Canada. And I knew one person from Canada, and I felt like I was going there to meet my star family, and that was pretty much it. Once I was out of school, I was like, I don't know why, I just need to go to Canada. And I met some really beautiful people, and I started on my art path.
What area of Canada, and can you situate us in what year we're
This
talking about now?
was in fall of 2006, and I went to BC initially. My friend Sobi. Oh, and I was crossing the border, and they were asking me, and I had crazy sparkle rainbow hair, and all these. Like every day was a walking art installation with all
Uh-huh.
these crazy outfits, and my car was packed full of like art stuff. And I get to the border, and they're like, "Yes, so who are you visiting?" And I'm like, "Sobi," and they're like, "Last name?" And I was like,
It.
Wing. Sobi Wing. I was like, oh God, I don't even know this person's actual name. Is their playa name? And they're like, okay, yeah, you pull over here. Searched through the whole car, interviewed me, and the guy was really cool. I had to sit there for like a half hour. They went through everything. And then he said, I did the same thing when I was your age, but I did it with a backpack. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving you a time limit. But then once you actually get there and you apply for extensions, like bureaucracy takes forever. So you basically stayed for as long as I wanted anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I started art there. I started meeting a lot of other artists and healers, and also right before I came back from Europe, I had what I call Kundalini Awakening, which is like, for me, that meant basically I started seeing energy off of everything, like the prana around trees and auras, and like
Did it happen as an explosion, and then after that you had some kind of psychic abilities, or was it something that crept up little by little?
it happened all at once. So it was actually really intense.
Uh-huh.
And
Like you
I
just woke
wasn't
up one morning, or were you playing piano and
I
you're...
was traveling, and I came to Portugal. So I think that it had to do with this land for whatever reason. Um, and the place that we were staying, my brother came to visit me before I came back to the States, right before I came back. And we're in Portugal. And at first we're staying in this like super hot, stuffy pensione. Found some woman at the train station. She brought us there because there was no hostel. It was summer by then, so everything was full.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had my Let's Go travel book, and I would just go randomly and see where we could stay. I never really planned a whole lot in advance. And so then we're in this like stuffy room. We're trying to go to sleep. It's really hot. We have the window open, and I can just hear all this laughter and music and people having a blast over on the rooftop, like a couple of rooftops over. So I'm like, what is going on over there? I don't know what that is, but we're going to go check it out.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a hostel. Maybe we can stay there.
Mm-hmm.
And so the next day we go over there. Sure enough, it's a hostel. They had 20 beds. They had 2 open beds. So my brother and I stayed there. And for the first time, in that hostel, because I had traveled a ton, I had stayed in a bunch of hostels. I had been going on adventures with different people I met, but this was the first time that everyone from all over the world staying in this hostel was hanging out together every day as a group.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing our shopping together. We were doing our cooking together. We were singing songs, playing silly games,
I love
telling jokes.
hostels like that.
Yeah, it was really fun. And I felt like that was,
Those rooftops become like the communal patio of creation.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was beautiful. And I was drinking a lot. I was drinking a lot of alcohol.
This is Lisbon?
No, I did go to Lisbon, which I love. This
Mhm.
was actually in Lagos.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Portugal's great and
the
it's
bottom.
cheap and the weather's nice.
Yeah, it's cheap. The weather's nice. And so yeah, so I did have a medicine experience there,
Uh-huh.
which I went on a mushroom journey with a few of the people from the group, which was actually very mild. And then at the end of the day, we're having our dinner, we're going out, we went to the bars, I'm drinking again. But everything shifted. And all of a sudden, I could see and feel God in everyone and myself, kind of for the first time consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like very heart opening. Um, and then for the next like 40-ish days, like month and a half, I was up like every day, all night, saw every single sunrise, would sleep for maybe 2 hours a day, barely eating, was seeing energy everywhere. And so in a way it was kind of intense. My family was a little, I came home and they're
If
a
you tell
little
anybody, they're gonna think you went crazy.
a little concerned.
Yeah.
Um, but it was a very magical experience also. But then I had to like integrate that into daily life. And so then I started meeting all of these healers and psychics and energy workers, and I started learning about the chakras, and people were giving me books to like study because I was seeing and experiencing all these things, but I didn't know what was happening. What does this mean? What is this, like things that I was seeing that I explained, like, oh, well, those are the chakras, or like, oh, that was a past life. So it was all very new.
You had no footing at all, like as a hippie traveler, like it was all super fresh, or you had some like kind of shanty spiritual people around you like to guide you, or just synchronistically the universe brought that to you at that time to
I
help you guide
started
you?
meeting all of the healers and spiritual hippie people after that. Like once I
Mm.
came back, I feel like that's all the people I started to meet and to help me understand. I grew up in Mendocino with a bunch of like back to lander people and just like simple life, like farming, having kids, going to school. I grew up Christian. My parents weren't even necessarily Christian. My dad was a recovering Catholic, refused to go to church ever.
Mm-hmm.
My mom is really interested in all different spiritual traditions, but not at that time. Like she didn't. She and I are very similar, but I think she didn't even have vocabulary for that or like what I was experiencing. But my neighbor, she was the pastor's daughter. We started hanging out a lot. I started going to church every week, a couple times, 2 or 3 times a week.
Wow.
Christian youth groups, Christian summer camp, all kinds of stuff. I was just taking myself to that. That was like my first experience of
Looking for God.
spirituality and looking for God.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I had access to.
I can resonate. Growing up in Peru, you as the adults, okay, like I know I want to be down with God. Like, how do I do this? It's like, oh, you got to go to church, you got to read your Bible, you got to do the Christian things. So you're just
Yeah,
searching for the oneness.
totally. And there was a lot of people in my community who were just, like atheist or pagan. I didn't even really know that that's what it was called. And I didn't really know what other people were doing. But yeah, that's when I came back and I started getting really deep into, I started developing like my own meditations
Mm-hmm.
and dream meditations because I was getting a lot of messages in dreams, and I started lucid dreaming, but I yeah, so I would go into the dream space to meet people for the first time that I was really interested in meeting, or like to work something out with someone, which we all do in our dreams, but to do it consciously, be like, I really need help with this thing. And I would speak out loud to my subconscious to be able to infuse that into my dream state as I'm entering into sleep.
Mm.
And yeah,
What
so
age is
just
this again?
Hmm?
What age were you at that
so
point?
at that time I was 21.
Uh-huh. So you're quite
And
young and already having like full-on conscious spiritual experiences where you're like trying to like rearrange your whole consciousness in this lifetime and past and beyond, which is a
yeah,
lot.
yeah, it was a lot. I came back. A lot of my classmates from my college who knew me as Jessica in a certain way before that year, and then coming back and being like, whew, super social and like kind of freaky and weird, but like open, like so much more open. And started dressing different, and I started like braiding my hair all weird. And
Why were you expressing yourself in such a quote unquote weird, strange, alien way? Did you feel like you connected with your incarnations in other planets and you were expressing it through this lifetime?
I don't know. I think it could be. I feel like it was just like all of this creative energy surging through me that I just went, like everything was art to me.
Yeah.
And so, and I did grow up braiding my hair in a bunch of little braids, but then I started adding like all this yarn and stuff to it and like hemp string and then I started seeing that everywhere, but like I didn't see anyone doing that when I was doing it.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I think there's like, I remember going to classes I went to the social geography class when I came back, and I like all of my classes all of a sudden became way more fascinating. Didn't matter what I was
Because
studying.
you're
I
probably
just
seeing an extra angle to it.
Yeah, extra angles, so many more dimensions to it, and also just seeing my teachers glowing and like checking out their light and just constantly engaging in class, which I never used to do. um, I was feeling life, like connected, interconnected. I could relate to whoever was in front of me in some way because we're all universal family. I was realizing that even though I didn't have the vocabulary for it. And so there is past lives in social geography class. I was feeling super connected to certain things we were studying. And then I would meet other people who were having a experience or sharing a story that was super connected to the things I was studying that felt way beyond this life. And learning more about past lives, it made sense to me that that's what was happening. But it also feels kind of weird to me because I feel like past lives, like being in more of a multidimensional reality, there is not so much time. Like it's not really linear.
A
It's
past life could actually be in the future.
Yeah, it could actually be in the future. It could also, yeah, it could be another expression of someone else's life in real time as it's happening somewhere else in the world.
Uh-huh.
Like there's other experiences I've had where I think I'm actually experiencing someone else's life in someone else's body in another place at this time.
Do you think there's another human being which your endless eternal soul is having another life in another part of the world, something like that? Hi, we take this little pause from our conversations for me to let you know that I got a brand new art book. This is my second art book, Shamanic Journey, that just came out with Last Gasp Publications. It's a 256 paged book, full color, shiny, beautiful pages with full of my art, writing, stories, basically everything I've done in the last 13 years. And I worked really hard on this book. It took me months to lay out by myself, and obviously the art has been a labor of love of many years, and I've condensed it all in this beautiful book that now is available on positcreations.net. You can get a signed version, you can get an unsigned version for a little bit cheaper. And yeah, this won't run out of electricity. On this digital world where we gotta charge everything, or a solar flare could knock out the electricity of the world and you'd be like, whoa, where did all my Chris Dyer go? No, this runs on energy forever. You never gotta charge it, you never gotta water it. It'll always be there to give you new inspiration and art. And I've done this with a lot of love, and I hope that you will get a copy for your own personal library. And uh, reflect yourself in it and make your own book and story of your life. But here's mine, and I hope you will enjoy it. positcreations.net. Thank you.
Say that again?
Your eternal soul, which is the oneness of everything, right now is experiencing being Ishka, right now having this conversation.
Yeah.
But somewhere else around the world, maybe once, maybe twice, maybe 10 times, that same soul is experiencing being another human being. Do you believe that to be a possibility, at least?
I think so. I feel like when I tap into what spirit is, and then there's soul, which I think is like spirit is the ocean. Spirit is the ocean, like universal spirit, where life comes from, where the drops of souls come from that individuate into these other places, but we're coming from the same body of water. So I feel like we're still connected to that body of water. So I feel like we're still, like, we're all able to tap into any of that as it's happening or has happened or will happen.
But we
Because
do fractalize as individual expressions, at least in this physical reality.
yeah.
But I guess that same ocean could also pop in different areas, being the same. I don't know. It's a mystery, I guess. I'm asking you
Yeah.
spiritual mathematics here.
Well, it's fun. It's so fun to experience and explore. And I mean, it's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, I think you're so lucky you had that Kundalini explosion. I'm at, I keep on saying I don't have psychic abilities, but like
So that's when I changed my name, by the way, to answer that question.
Yeah, great. Well, I'll reel it back into the art, which is super connected to like seeing. Because if you're painting things you don't see, like myself, I personally don't know where that comes from. But psychics tell me that I'm painting a real place, and I'm bringing visions of the planets that perhaps I lived at some point. You, while being a human, actually saw things with your like your inner eye or your real eyes, that then you're like, I gotta paint this, and it's at the same time you're ready to be an artist, right? Kind of aligned.
Yeah. So yeah, I started having these different visions, and then I started drawing because I was doing a lot of drawing. I grew up drawing mostly. And so I was drawing a lot of these different imageries that kind of remind me of dreams. Like everything's kind of morphing into something else. And they're also like telling stories, and it's like a lot of diversity of beings in these pieces. But then I started painting, and I started painting this piece.
Beautiful.
That was my transition into painting.
Amazing. That's your first painting.
My first painting, in a way, because I took art as electives in junior high and high school, and there were the exercises and things. And I did a mural project with my dad for my senior project. And he taught me like how to, do more like color mixing and stuff. And so so I did have some practice, but this was the first time to create something just from my own world. No assignment, no, thing, no preconceived thing either. I didn't know what I was going to make as I made it. And it actually started as a drawing, but then I was like, oh my God, I want to paint this. I'm going to paint this. And then I started transcribing or translating it to canvas. But then it started shape shifting. And so the story that was told through this other piece morphed, which was a fascinating story because a lot of people were telling me, oh, that's the daughters of Atlas and this thing and this thing and the Taurids and the Pleiades sisters, and which is amazing. And but then it kind of shifted, and then I was trying to figure out, well, who are these beings and what is going on here? And I started feeling the dragon energy, this like serpent dragon energy, like weaving through the piece. And I had just started studying Tibetan Buddhism. And I went to a gathering and I was sharing about the art. And I love to talk to community, like, what are you experiencing when you're looking at this? And what's happening here? What's going on? Um, and I realized that when I learned about Kuan Yin, she rides on dragons. And I painted this being, the blue being on the right, with a full pregnant belly and this vase she's holding. And Kuan Yin is holding a vase of healing waters in traditional tankas and paintings. And she's often prayed to for conception and childbirth and fertility. She's a divine mother, goddess, archetype, energy, whatever word you want to use. And she rides on dragons. And so it just clicked. Like all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, this is Kuan Yin coming through the painting in real time right now. And then the other being on the left, it's sort of like, and maybe you can relate because I don't always have a concept in mind before I start a piece. I don't know how you do your pieces, but they kind of reveal themselves in phases. And then I'll feel this exchange. It's like a body sensation and like a heart sensation, which I think a lot of people actually don't give enough merit to clairsentience, because it's actually the most common of our like psychic abilities and our energetic abilities. There's clairvoyant, clairaudient, all these things, but clairsentience is like the body feeling.
I
So
think
we're
I'm more
tuning
that.
into energy that we can't necessarily see or hear or whatever, but like it's very present. It's very visceral, and it's giving us information, and it's giving us these messages. It can be like from our guides, it can be from our meditations, from the great soul that we're a part of. And it's just like we just listen. Like I do, over time I've been able to actually hear it as words, and I can see it in my third eye. But there's a lot of this, like, because I feel like if we're tuned in through here, that's where our greatest work is coming through.
So that left being came from clairsentience, and the right being came from clairvoyance, would you say?
They both came through clairsentience, I think.
Did you have visions of these?
The left being, no,
No.
they literally just poured out of me, but I didn't.
I'd say my method's more like that. I don't see my creatures in psychedelics, or not. People are like, oh, you must be tripping so hard, and I've never seen my art on no journey, but then I'm painting this stuff and I don't understand.
Yeah. And so over time, though, also, like I'm able to see, I've been able to practice and like hone in on, like, it's like a radio or something. So there's like certain frequencies of it that you're able to like hear in sound, or like see in light and color, or see shapes, or like it's like it goes like this, or it has a blue, there's like this blue thing over here, or like, yeah, like there's this being that's like saying things.
It's like you're taking orders from from somebody's on their menu. It's like, okay, I'm gonna use this human now to express myself, and maybe that person giving orders is your higher self, for all we
Yeah,
know.
well, I feel like Kuan Yin came through, and then the one on the left is the green Tara, and green Tara is there's 21 emanations of Tara. The white Tara is actually like the same as the Kuan Yin, the mother, the great mother. The green Tara is the youthful maiden, and she's often pictured sitting in half lotus position, like she's ready to come to the rescue at any time. And she's the active principle of the Buddha. It helps with us to like navigate through the waters of life. But she's like, it's like the earth element coming to receive the water blessings from the water mother. And she's
Beautiful.
this celestial being. And the more that I've worked with them in my meditations and ritual, and also creating these art experiences where we can use the painting as a portal into these other dimensions of ourselves and tapping into them as our guides, like to me, it is not separate once you get into more of the engagement with the being. It's like, yes, here's the deity, here's Kuan Yin, this energy that we call Kuan Yin. This is how we're going to paint Kuan Yin. This is the energies coming through. But it's also felt and emulated in a different place on the planet with maybe a different name or like different
Appearance.
appearance, but has the same energy. And
Because that's a very non-Asian Kuan Yin.
it's very non-Asian.
And some people might even be offended.
Totally.
You know, it's like, hey, it's supposed to be this race. Or it's like, how can you give a race to an interdimensional being?
Or even a gender. Like,
right.
When you get even more distilled. But yeah, and sometimes people do get offended, and it's something that I feel like we have to navigate that. I feel like I navigate that often because I'm seeing all these different energies coming through that are also part of these different traditions that are woven together, but also like they don't own this thing. Like I think at some point spirituality becomes an institution because people are trying to teach others about these amazing experiences and awareness that they've been able to develop. But then it becomes so far removed from the initial teachings because it's so far removed from the people who've experienced it that it gets watered down, and then it becomes a dogma.
It gets calcified. As we were talking with, James during breakfast, it was like culture can be a total spiritual expression. It's like the spirit wants to express through physicality, but then we calcify and make it so rigid, it becomes a box that's like, I can't get out of this thing,
Yeah.
So that's beautiful. I gotta say that painting, for your first soul expression, is like super developed. You have a lot to say in it. You got a lot of personal style. It's incredible that would be your first visionary painting with very and technically speaking, is also quite advanced for somebody who also only did like a handful of paintings before that.
There are a lot of layers in that painting too, because I was learning how to use the paint as I was making it. And so I was just doing because there was a feeling, and I think that this is what happens when people are exploring their creative, like when they're getting into making art, to be able to, whatever, like get out of their head and like translate, like maybe they have a vision, something in mind already before they come and they want to make this thing or whatever, but to like get into that kind of focus, when we get into flow state, right? A lot of people know about flow state at this point. You activate flow state through being so creatively engaged and focused, and you're challenged in just the right ways to like hone this thing, and you keep massaging it, and you are required to become so present with that thing that you're doing that the mind just kind of evaporates. And we're able to drop into that state, and where the thing is actually just creating itself through you. And it's amazing because I think most of the time when we're creating from that place, it's awe-inspiring for us as the artists to be making the thing. We're like, oh my God, like, how did I make that? I don't know how I made that. It's incredible. Like, and it's so, the energy between us and the creation is so dynamic that way. And it feeds us and we're feeding it. It's like, as a woman who's also had a baby, I like to think of that process sometimes as like the pregnancy. There's the spark of conception, the making love, the passion. Like you come to this project with this inspiration, this idea, and then you have to like work it, and it's developing and it's growing, and you have to make sure that you're feeding it good things and good intentions and being kind to yourself in the process, and having the courage to create the thing, even if you have no idea how you're going to create the thing. I feel like I just keep going on and on, but
I love it. That's why I'm not stopping you, because you're saying all the things that I want to like ask you. You're just saying them. So I'm like, hey, let Ishka roll and keep on sharing all this beautiful medicine. Let me ask you something. In that ability that you started seeing energies, you say that it only lasted 40 days, but it might have remained longer. It comes in and out, and if it does, do you have it right now? And if it also is on and off, what do you see in a painting? Not only yours, but other people's paintings. Like, do you see like a whole fucking like geometrical aura around? Like, what happens when you go to like Entheon and look at a bunch of Alex Grays? Is it like is there like entities on the corner kind of hanging out with that painting? It's like, yeah, me and him, like we're engaged. This painting and me. What's going on?
Yeah, I feel like in a way, I don't even know. I'm omni-faith. I'm an animist. I'm not sure what to call myself, but I think everything has a spirit, has a life. So yeah, when I go to see art that is created through that feeling of flow and intentionality, like I think it's important the intention that we bring to the art we're making, because I think there's also some people that are making stuff to like not do that necessarily, and it can
Some art could be a
affect
mask
us.
from the truth.
Yeah, or maybe they haven't figured out who they are yet too, so it can be confusing, and so then you feel the confusion in the thing, and or they're working out through some trauma, which I think is super powerful too, but also like you know you ha- there comes a time in the process where there's a lot of intentionality that can go into a piece, and it can possibly turn out not so great.
Yeah.
Because the skill isn't there yet. You have to practice the skill. People can be born with like, there's the whole that whole conversation. Talent. Oh, I wasn't born with that, or I'm not creative, or whatever. That's a choice. And I believe this. But there are also certain things, I think, possibly in our DNA that we are born being aware of how certain things work and how we can do certain things that comes a lot easier to us for some reason. But that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to create great art just because you're born with that. And it also doesn't mean that people who weren't born with that can't make incredible, awe-inspiring art. Both of those people, in whatever field it is, have to practice.
Yeah, you got to put the work. It's not going to fall in your
You've got
lap.
to put the work in. And if you don't, then you might not be able to create those things that fulfill you. And if you're creating art that fulfills you, then you're going to create art that fulfills others. And I think we can see that everywhere. Like, great art has the ability, and this is what I'm always focusing on, creating my own art, but I see it in lots of other people's art, whatever medium. It has the capacity to, not the potential, but it does create awe. And when we are beholden by this great work, which can also be a newborn baby or the sunset or something in nature, then we come into kind of like a stillness in the mind, and we're able to like rest in the beauty. We're like able to just actually rest. And in that beauty is when we get our own inspiration for making something amazing too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also where I think altruism, true altruism, comes from.
So why do you make art? Because are you inspired? Because there's this like mission that you gave yourself before this life, so you're fulfilling it. You know, like if we're eternal beings that come really briefly to be humans, and here we're doing things, and you could do some cool things, you could help some people, you could do some cool art, but at the end of the game, it's just like a quick bleep of an existence. Like, what does it all matter? Sometimes I can be a little bit like, what does anything I do matter?
Yeah.
If it's just like, you know, if really
Ephemeral.
I'm somewhere else and so much great, like, and yeah, I'm playing being a human, let's make the most out of it. But like, what motivates us to like make this an amazing experience as a human or as artists?
Yeah, well, I think that it's just fun.
Uh-huh.
We need to have fun. It's when we feel alive, like we get to play. Even if we know we're like, okay, we're gonna go to the studio from like 8 to 5 p.m., like whatever. Like we can work a 9 to 5 in the studio. That's a real life.
Uh-huh.
And we show up, you know, however many days we have on our schedule that we schedule. But like, and you think, oh, well, that kills the inspiration or it kills spontaneity. But like, it actually just creates space for like, okay, now I have a play space that I decided to come to every day.
Mm-hmm.
What do I want to make? I feel like if we can be doing, if we can all figure out ways that we can do that, like whatever it is that we're drawn to, like I could also be an accountant, and maybe I would be happy just doing that. I actually really love accounting.
Uh-huh. That's so strange.
But like, there's so many things that we could do that if you bring enough attention and intention to it, like anything can be fun.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that stoke that you bring to art or accounting or whatever you do, is that something that you have to make yourself have? Is it something that's waiting for you to have and you just gotta go and grab it? Like, how do people who are not excited about life find that excitement? I'm excited about my life. I love what I do, but sometimes I do have
Yeah.
moments where I'm like, what does this all mean? You know, like if it is just a virtual reality video game, which is what I sometimes come to realization on plant medicine. So
Yeah, no, like the nihilism sets in, and you're like, I'm not gonna swear, but
you can if you want to, but
yeah.
your daughter might look at this. Yeah.
Well, we call them sentence enhancers in our household, which she prefers us not to swear, so I try to honor that. So how do people find that?
Where is stoke? Is stoke
Yeah,
in you? Is
yeah,
stoke out there for
yeah,
us to stoke the fire and
yeah.
then we expand it?
I think we have to create the space. It's like sometimes we're like carving out the space, right? Like we think we don't have enough time for this or for that, or we put this off, and we'll do like when we're ready, we'll do that thing, or when I'm able to do this, then I can do that. But I can't do that thing I actually really want to do because actually maybe it just scares the shit out of me, and maybe I'll fail at it, or maybe everyone will hate me for it, or maybe I'll just be considered lazy or a total F up because that's not what other people are doing, or whatever it is. Spend time in nature I think whenever I'm feeling a lack of motivation or despondent, I we're like overwhelmed. Like if I'm feeling overwhelmed or just like stressed, I go and I put my feet in the river. And every time I do that, the water just takes all of that crazy energy out of my body.
Mm.
Natural water is very, very important for people to be able to have access to.
Ocean would work too, right?
Ocean is great. All the negative ions in the air, they're like pulling all the heavy energy out of us constantly. A waterfall, you could just like splash around a bunch in the bathtub or a shower even, because the negative ion thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it literally pulls heavy energy out of us. And then we feel lighter, we feel happier, we feel we're in this like it brings us into
The current.
the current.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of what's meant to be for us and for all humans.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring back to your history as it interlaces into like visionary art history.
Great.
You got this like amazing visions. You started painting. You started channeling interdimensional beings with great personal, unique language and technique. When do you see like, oh, there's others like me. Oh, there's visionary art. Oh, they got some events happening in Seattle. Oh, let's join them. How did all that converge?
So gosh, let's see. I started doing those drawings. I posted them. This is when tribe.net was around. I don't know if you were a part
That
of
was like a social
tribe.net.
media
It was
for hippies, right?
amazing. Yeah, I when I came back with my awakening, I met people who were like, "Oh, you should definitely get on tribe.net. It's amazing. You'll meet all the people that are doing energy and art stuff." And so I started connecting, and there's all these forums talking about that kind of stuff too. So I could like talk with other people who are having similar experiences and who could teach me. And I met Roman, I think on tribe.net, Roman Villagrana.
Yeah.
Or or maybe through someone else in Canada. It's vague in my memory. And maybe Hawaii. But he saw my art and he's like, you should come to this interdimensional art show we're having in Seattle. And I was like, okay, I have like 2 drawings. I can go to this thing and show some of my art. Like,
the visionary art scene of North America was so new and there were so little people there that even somebody with 2 drawings was like, wow, there's another one.
Yeah.
Like, now we're 10.
And that's where we met. And I met Zavi there. I met...
was that 2008 your first one?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
cool. That was my first one.
Yeah. Who else? Who else was
Well,
Lindy.
we had Delvin was there.
Delvin, I met him.
Lindy Kehoe.
Maybe I met him in Canada, right?
Yeah, because he was part of that British Columbia tribe of elves. Who else was there? Like Eric Nez, David Heskin, Aloria Weaver.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, all very new to me. I met almost everyone there.
That's great.
And I enjoyed meeting you so much. It was so fun. I remember that drawing that you did. We were hanging out. Like I was making tags, I think, for the artist, and you were like, "Hey, can I do a sketch of you?" I was like, "Sure." I was so like also kind of nervous because I was like surrounded by all of these artists that had been doing all this amazing art, and in the same way that I could understand that I was making art. Like it was someone gave me an Alex Gray book, The Mission of Art. And I had seen his art, but then when I started reading that book, I was like, oh my God, this is what I'm doing. And I didn't have words for it. So it helped me to develop a vernacular for that. Like to be able to be in more conversation about this and to actually have words for it. Like words are so powerful. And if we don't even know how to talk about with this thing that we're doing or experiencing, it's like, I would be at a loss for words a lot of the time. And I would just be able to express like, well, here's my art. Like it's in my art or it's in my song. I can sing it or I can write it in a poem or something.
Well, I feel those initial visionary art shows were crucial for people like us who were doing a weird thing where we're doing it. And then they're like, oh, there's others. And then you go there. That was my first showing up in person, and I was super nervous because, like, I'm like East Coast to start with, Canada, which is like, you're already disqualified by being up there, and then I'm like in super cool Seattle with all the West Coast super hippie, heady people, and but it was very nice, and it was my foot in the door, and so on. So it was really lovely meeting all of you guys and seeing different flavors of visionary art. Because I was doing skateboard graphics. I was the weirdo being like, I'm going to put my skateboard graphics on the wall here. I don't know if this fits with what you guys are doing, but this is what I do.
Yeah, and I'm forgetting the Blue Tech.
Blue Tech DJ'd.
Yeah,
Also
he
Tipper.
was there.
Tipper
He would
played on.
the drawing I had, like the biggest one I think I had there, that was his favorite piece in the whole show. And I was like, this artist that I love that I just discovered also recently is like totally loving my piece. Like that's cool. That feels nice. Like here I am. And you were super friendly. I have to say, like, it was so great to be able to meet you. There's particular people that you just like, oh yay, it's another munchkin. I don't know.
Yeah, another interdimensional elf turned human doing weird things. Yeah, no, I was happy, very excited, nervous yet enthusiastic.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed seeing that. I did that. Then I think I did like Shambhala right before that. Did the interdimensional art show, and then I went to Burning Man, or in a different order altogether in 2008.
Yeah.
So it was like a lot because I was not that hippie.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that same year that I had my awakening, I felt like so much happened after that. It was like a lot just to integrate. I went to my first Burning Man, and that was like a giant, a giant art installation. It felt like I was at, I don't even know how I describe it. It was like a wonderland. It's like a wonderland, and it's so diverse. You just don't know what you're going to see or experience.
Yeah, very expansive, but sometimes it can also like blow your fuses a little bit.
Yeah, which I think definitely happened. I think that there's times in that era where I was pushing my limits, seeing what are my limits and what, where can I go and I'll say with, in medicine journeys, and what context are they in and with whom and what are we doing with that and why. Very, very informative and also influential, but like, again, it's not about psychedelics for me. Like, and we've had this conversation, but like, it's a way of being, it's a way of seeing, and we are in a multidimensional world. We do experience a lot. We can see and feel a lot, and it's very complex. And so sometimes the paintings, I think, are a way to give people a window into that without having to necessarily go through the super intense psychosomatic events, experiences that some people cannot actually even handle, like mentally, emotionally. Their chemical makeup it can be very dangerous for certain people to do that. And so how can we develop and cultivate this way of experiencing life that's much more gentle? And also that we can incorporate into our daily life in a way that's sustainable and healthy. Yeah. And
well, that's
what I'm about.
That's a great intention for the visionary art that you do as somebody who can see and and for all of visionary art. I would hate if visionary art just ends up being like, oh, it's the art of people who do drugs.
Yeah.
It's like, sure, that's one of the doorways, but
And
that,
it can be.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's no
It
bad
doesn't even
vibes to that.
necessarily mean it is.
Yeah, but we don't want it to become another box.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also, yeah, there's like very, I don't know, let's just say heady, very intellectual, or like certain people from certain points of society are like, oh, yes, that's like psychedelic, whatever. Or like reminds me of the 60s, back when I was,
Mm-hmm.
just gallivanting around in my bell bottoms or whatever. But like, it didn't mean anything to you. Like, what did that mean to you? And also people would come in and like, whoa, this is so trippy. I'm like, yeah, but like why is it trippy? What makes it trippy? What is it? What does that
What
mean
is
to
trippy?
you? What is trippy?
Like, I felt trippy on psychedelic things where I'm like, I'm this trippy being, but it's not because of the drug. I'm just feeling an aspect of myself, and this is how I'm gonna live now. I'm gonna go out there, and I'm just gonna be a little trippy creature. And if people can't get me, doesn't really matter, because that's how I am.
Yeah,
and that's
we're
me.
just like this. And we're like, I don't know, it's just like the way that my body wants to move, and this is the energy moving through me in this way.
And it's a beautiful thing, and we gotta allow that aspect of ourselves to flow too. I got a book launch, as you know, coming very soon, and I would love to keep on picking your brain about so many things and artwork. But before we end up this conversation, I would like you to tell me about your musical aspects with your beloved James, who I love, and I think we're from the same planet. I think he's amazing. And when I went to my little retreat at the hotel in the forest in Georgia, you guys were there, and I was like, oh my God, Ishka, I haven't seen you in decades, and here you are, and you're like, haha, let me play a song for your class, and you guys played some amazing songs, and I was touched. I was feeling the other dimension through your songs, and I was like, wow, these guys are there. And I love it, and I love your music. And please tell me about your project before you even show us a little of your music.
Yeah, so our music project is called Jamishka, and it's a combination of James and Ishka, James Karen and Ishka Lha. And we're all live duo, and we incorporate a lot of we both sing and songwrite our butts off. We also improvise and compose a lot, like in the moment, depending on what's needed, what's happening in the space. We really like to tune into the energy of the audience and the event and the intentionality. There's different things going on, and also I write invocations for the paintings, and I translate them into altar cards, and we also translate them into music pieces, and we create journeys through the visual art, through ritual, through the music, through prayer, through all of these different aspects of ourselves that we love to create through and share. Yeah.
Beautiful. Do you guys have some aspirations of taking over the world with your musical prowess, or is it just some kind of shamanic offering in the name of the Most High for whoever it touches?
All of the above. Really? Yeah, all of the above with love. So take over the world. We love to share our music and our art, and with as many people as humanly possible, I think is wonderful. And people who connect with it and whose hearts it touches and opens. And whatever level, we welcome that. So we're just here to be truly in service to that.
Wow, so many talents. So before you play some of your music, is there somewhere that people can find you, your offerings, your art, your music?
Yeah, so I'm ishkalha.com, ishkalha.com. You can also find me Ishka Lha Art on Instagram and Facebook. I have a newsletter. You can sign up for my newsletter. We also have jamishka.com, JAM, like jam, EESHKA. And we have a bunch of links to YouTube videos and SoundCloud and different things that we're doing on there.
Nice. Beautiful.
Yeah, and Instagram and Facebook for Jamishka too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ishka. And woo! Before this beautiful musical presentation, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, all those beautiful things. Ladies and gentlemen, Jamishka.
Everything of the moment.
Yeah, my yeah, yeah, my yeah, yeah, my yeah, my yeah, yeah, my yeah, yeah, my yeah, yeah, my yeah, my yeah. In the face of your beauty, I fall in love once again. It is you who reminds me of the state that I'm in. That I am fragile, that I am strong. It's in your warm waters that I truly belong. With every wave crashing down, you touch the air that I breathe and take them back to the ground. All I do not need. Yeah, my yeah, 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 my yeah, my yeah, 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 yeah, my yeah. I am free of confusion, free of mind's delusion. When the deep blue in you fills the deep blue in me, pour into me, out of me, pour out of me, into me, pour into me, out of me, pour out of me, into me, pour. Yeah, my yeah, yeah, my yeah, yeah, my yeah, my yeah, yeah, my yeah, yeah, my yeah, yeah, my yeah, my yeah. As a pillar of salt I stand, a tribute to dry ocean lands. I draw the waters from within once again. I sway as the green of her hair does sway in the tide pools of the crimson bay. Yeah, my yeah, yeah, my yeah, yeah, my yeah, my yeah, yeah, my yeah, yeah, my yeah, yeah, my yeah, my yeah. In pools of your Laramia, wisdom is never foreign. Pools up your Laramia, wisdom is never foreign. Pools up your Laramia, wisdom is never far. I will be there where the raindrops splash. I'll be naked and bare inside a lightning flash, with my hands raised and a face ablaze. I'll be dancing in praise. A living shaman, stomping out the hay, singing creation. With every fibrillating body quake, these hips and feet and hands can mate. With every fibrillating body quake, these hips and feet and hands can mate. With every fibrillating body quake, these hips and feet and hands can mate. Yummy, 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 yeah. 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 Yummy, yummy, yummy,
Thank you.
Next episode, Savvy.
Trust your inner vision of your own artistic identity. Draw in sketchbooks. I think a lot of great development can happen in that medium that can then translate into other mediums. Definitely don't worry about what other artists are doing. Just go deeply into your own identity and see what is between you and your higher self or creator, however you want to look at it. There's an intimate connection that the two of you have, and that there's special artistic gifts that are yours and yours alone. So I would say to just, focus on yourself and your own work.
So please make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Big thanks, and see you next episode. Peace.